Hey guys, our old friend Maren Muter stops in to talk about life in a haunted castle and other ghostly delights. See you in about 5 minutes. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to California Haunts Radio. It's Thursday, one more day to go and it's the weekend. But you know what? Who has a lot of yard work to do, right? All those storms here in California, still making up for it. And then what happens today? Earthquake. Oh my. At least it didn't hit me too hard. I didn't feel a lot of people around me felt it. I didn't feel it. Of course, I was napping. But yeah, like we don't have enough problems with fallen trees and everything else that happened during all those storms. We had an earthquake, but it was more up by Mount Last. It was more up way northern California. Is where the epicenter was. Anyhow, my name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. We're going to have a good show tonight. And I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means we can get to you. It might take us a while because California is a huge state. So if we can't get to you right away, what we'll do is we have 5 mediums on staff who can talk to you and maybe calm things down in your home or business. And then by the time by the time we get out there, you're not all stressed out, right? Okay. So look us up. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch. We're on TikTok now. Instagram under Ghosty Gal. You can find me over there. Shoot me an email, and I'll be sure to get things rolling and start enrolling for y'all. Okay. And that reminds me, if you're watching from Facebook today, and a lot of you are, if you haven't done so already and you like what you see today, be sure to hit that follow button. Hello, Jen. Be sure to hit that follow button because we're always looking for followers. Always, always, always. And be sure, if you do like what you hear today, hit those thumbs up button, hit those hearts, show me some love. Okay, show me some love because what happens between Facebook and YouTube is that helps with the algorithms. So the more love we get, that sounds terrible. The more love we get, the higher we go in the algorithms, which means it just doesn't focus on certain pages. It takes us out to the internet world, right? So there's more people watching. So please do that. Also, if you're watching from YouTube today and you haven't done so already and you like what you see, feel free to subscribe. We've got over 600 videos sitting over there, and they're all varying topics. I am a journalist by trade, and so I don't always do paranormal topics. I do all kinds of topics, which is the reason why, if you go on the front page of the video of the YouTube page, you will see categories because I've taken all the shows, or the majority of the shows, I'm finishing off this weekend, and put them in categories to make them easier to find. So if there's a particular individual you want to find, like Maren, and find her shows, you can go in under whatever category I have over there. I can't remember off the top of my head. Brain fart. But yeah, you'll be able to find Maren a lot easier. You'll be able to find, if your thing is ghosts and goblins, you'll be able to look under ghosts and hauntings and find that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes it a lot easier for you guys to track it down. Plus, I'm very active in the YouTube community. I do a paranormal question of the day every day to challenge your brains, and it's usually true or false. And sometimes I'll ask for a physical answer, but yeah, I do that. And I also have a lot of I have polls going over there. What do you guys want to hear? What types of topics do you guys like? So I'm very active over on that page as well. We also have a Discord, which we haven't really done a lot with, but we're going to start getting that going. And I have a Patreon. Okay, and my Patreon members, good benefits. It's $5.50 a month, and what happens is if I do a pre-recorded interview with somebody, I let you guys see it 2 weeks before anybody else does, just for Patreon members. And if there's a guest that we have on that you guys really like, and maybe you are shy about asking a question in the chat room of the guest, or maybe the interview went so well you didn't want to interrupt us or something, we bring those guests on over to Patreon for special interviews, and you guys can go over there and ask. So check out the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. I'm sorry, no, California Haunts Radio Patreon. So many California Haunts in my life. Okay, that being said, I'm going to shut my mouth and all right, let's bring my good friend Maren on.
Hello, Charlotte.
Hello, how's it going?
Pretty good. You got me on location. Out on a treasure hunt, ghost hunt, fairy hunt, Sasquatch hunt. I feel like I'm listing all of your social media accounts.
That's it. Yeah.
Twitter, whatever. But I'm on location, so if I look filthy, I've been in the mountains all day and hunting around, seeing what we can see, and doing readings out there. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. How goes the hunt, though?
Oh, and if you can't hear me, I don't have a microphone. Really, truly, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So what was your question?
How goes the hunting?
Oh, it goes great. It goes very great. This is how it started off, my leaving. So I left Vermont, but the day before I leave Vermont, and I tried to record it on my phone, but I'm really bad at selfie recordings. I'm in my garden, which I have in the woods, in this huge rock quarry. So it's like giant boulders, and I've planted a whole bunch of different flowers out there, bulbs, and I was kind of hanging out. And across the way, so it's kind of a meadowed area, and across the way at the edge of the forest, I saw a creature, the creature that I saw when I was in Big Sur, a very similar creature, about 2.5 feet tall, humanoid. And it moved so fast, and it moved from my right. Well, I had the camera, so it was right side of the film to the left side of the film camera. And it just went, whew. And then we spent the next 15 minutes playing hide and seek. I am not kidding. And I tried to get some of it. It would jump out at me. I'd be like, ah. And so the camera was like that. So I just said, forget it. I'm not going to record that anymore. But it was astounding. It was probably one of the most spectacular fairy kind of experiences that I've ever had. The time before that was in Big Sur, when I was hiking around after the 2016 floods and fires and floods. And I happened upon one of the Big Sur creatures that lives deep in the Santa Lucia Mountains. And again, we froze at first when we saw each other. And then it jumped, and it jumped so high. It jumped like 20 feet, maybe 25 feet straight up into a tree. And I walked kind of right by it, trying to look at it, but not really look at it, like, oh yeah, I didn't see you, la, la, la. But it was amazing, because in Vermont just a week and a half ago, that I saw that creature again. So that was the day before I started my travel from Vermont out here to Arizona. And along the path, I stopped and spoke to people that had different sightings of different ethereal beings or creatures, everything from ghosts to a Sasquatch and things like that. So it really, really interesting. And it's amazing how, when you just listen, there's so many of these stories, but people either disregard them and they don't know that that is what they just experienced, because their brain is like, did I see that? Did I experience that? And it just kind of puts it to the side. But when it's just staying with you and it sticks right there in your soul, and you're like, I know that was something, to be able to sit down and tell someone about it, or talk to somebody who is going to listen and not think that they are odd for thinking these things and giving them some validation. The stories that come out are just amazing.
Why do you think certain people see this stuff and others don't?
I think we all see it. We all see it, but our brain translates it into something that will kind of make sense. So we might be really busy doing something, and we get that kind of oil slick feeling that shoots around the side of your eye, and you're like, what was that? And you look over and there was nothing there, and you shake it off. You're like, oh, that was nothing, and you get back to what you're doing. Most people have that experience, and they don't put anything to it, because either it's not relevant to their life and they don't really want to think about it, or they're in a place in their life where they don't want to worry or think about something in addition to everything else that they have to worry and think about. And then some people really, in those same situations where there's a lot going on in their life and they see it, then they notice it more, because they're thinking, oh, this is one more thing. Now I have something else to worry about. And they can actually divert their attention away from other things in their material life over into the superstitious life
Mm-hmm.
as a reprieve. So it really just depends on our brain and how our brain processes the events around us. But we live in the ethereal world. Our brain is just filtering the ethereal world out to give us what we see before us, to give us this material world here, that this 3D version of it. But my body, your body, everybody out there that's watching this, you are literally in the ethereal world. You're pushing your hands through spirit activity right now. It's all around you. And your brain is filtering all of that out into what's relevant to your life right now.
Is that the kind of thing like Sylvia Brown was talking about? As she was growing up, how some mediums will see horrible things and some mediums won't. So God's kind of controlling, to just allow you to see what you can handle.
Yeah. So I'm not too sure what she said.
Yeah.
Describe it to me a little bit more.
What was it? It was along the line of God's not going to give you anything more than you can handle to see. So I just wonder, because kind of sounds like that in a way, because your mind is filtering what it wants to see and then what it doesn't want to see. Where maybe you're one of these people that you don't want to see violent stuff or anything like that, so then you don't see that stuff. You see the happier
Basically,
stuff. Yeah.
your brain, yes, is tailoring your experience to you and where you are in life at that point. It's not necessarily that you can't handle these other things, because we can all handle, we all have the capacity and capability to handle amazing amounts of things. But our brain actually tailors our life experience to what's going on, what we've experienced up to that point, and it just kind of has to make sense. It can't just really throw something else at you. That's why when you hear people that talk about having ethereal experiences, they've kind of had those experiences or those capabilities throughout their lifetime. So it's not throwing a wrench into what is already the norm for you. If you are somebody that has never had that, and then all of a sudden you have like a poltergeist that's operating in front of you, and you're like, what? That would be throwing a wrench. So God or the consciousness that's out there isn't trying to trick you. It's not trying to throw a wrench into to what's going on. It's giving you, it's unveiling information and unveiling experiences as your life unfolds. So if it's relevant, you'll get it. If it's not relevant, you're not going to see it.
Well, I have a story for you too. I came in contact with my first fairies.
You did?
During COVID, we did an investigation, and because it involved little kids, we went out there, and we couldn't figure out. One of the little boys was autistic, and so we couldn't figure out what was going on. And they kept saying, "Hey, we're hearing voices. We're hearing voices in the house." And there's stuff being moved around, not big stuff, but like drawers were opening and closing, and all this was going on. And so everybody left the house. We were there, and we were sitting there, and I kept hearing voices coming in from the outside. And I thought, no, somebody's out there. There has to be a hole in the wall somewhere in this house. And so we're, being who we are, we're combing all over, and it had a basement, or a small little crawl space. And so we're looking at the crawl space and stuff. Couldn't find any voices. Couldn't find any reason for the voices. And then my psychic walks in from the team, and she goes, "We're dealing with fairies here. Can you hear that?" And I could, and I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." So we determined it was fairies, and so we had to make a deal with the fairies, so they wouldn't, they wouldn't scare the family and bother the family. But the fairies were okay with it. It was their land, obviously, before, But it's my first time encountering fairies, so that's kind of cool.
That is really cool. Make sure you bring chocolate cake.
Yes.
When there's a fairy, have a chocolate cake because they love cake. As the name goes.
Yeah, didn't know that. That's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
I'll get along great with them.
Whenever I have a fairy encounter, and there's different kind of fae out there. So there's different sizes, there's different locations that certain types of fairy like to live in, and others don't. But if you ever see a fairy, I always end up leaving cake of some sort. And if I have to go get cake and bring it back to that area, I do.
It kind of reminds me of Tommy knockers too. I mean, I've had a couple cases that have involved Tommy knockers, and they're always moving stuff around. But if you leave food out, boy, It's like an attractive form.
Yes, absolutely.
So how's life at the house?
Life at the house is it's pretty good. It is probably one of the most active places that I really have been. And I say this every time,
Yeah.
but it's amazing just the everyday occurrence of spiritual activity.
But they're
People,
peaceful. I mean, it's not like
yeah,
they're doing anything to scare you.
nope,
So that's
not at
cool.
all. I think other people when they come out, they get a little scared, especially. So if you ever come out, yes, I have you down on a lower floor. That's usually, and I love it down there, but they love the lower floor. So you'll probably end up getting, I thought somebody was like staring at me last night, or my sheets moved off of my feet, or someone knocked on my door, things like that.
You talk to them?
Yeah, I talk to them. Not in especially I talk to them just as I would talk to you. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to make cake. I'm going to go make cinnamon rolls. I'm making sourdough bread. Just talk to them. Yeah.
I got a question. What's a Tommy knocker? Tommy knockers, if I remember correctly, I live in California. I live in California near the gold country. And Tommy knockers are a legend of the silver mines and gold mines. And it was said that these little men, kind of like the Seven Dwarfs, when you think about it, they're like little guys, and they look like little miners, and they have mining caps on, mining hats on. But if you hear noises in the mine, the Tommy knockers will warn the miners when there's going to be a collapse. And so you'll hear noises and knocking, hence the knock. You'll hear knockings in the mines, is what the miners claim, and they know to get out because there's an impending collapse. Or they could be very mischievous to the point, like with this house, this guy was built over a mine shaft. And so they can be very mischievous and come into your house and run around and move stuff around and all this other stuff. You don't know where, stuff goes missing. So you have to appease them because they're Cornish miners. They came over with the Cornish miners. And so you have to appease them and make peace with them. But they're nothing bad. They're just there to help protect the miners. But they call them Tommy knockers because they make knocking sounds in the mines.
Yeah, they're very mischievous, very playful. Think of like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn.
Yeah, they're pretty fun. We've had a couple of cases like that.
Yeah.
And I always laugh when people go, "Oh, I saw this little man," and I went, "Oh, do you live over a mine?" Well, there's one around just a half mile away. Okay.
Yep. And they're not that big. I mean, they really are small, and they're proportionate, and they're almost gnome-like ish from what I have.
Yeah. It's like a Chucky doll.
Yeah. No, like a Chucky doll.
So you saw this particular fairy folk, where you live, and is there any? Did you recognize what type of fairy it is, or I mean, it obviously wants to see you again because it did twice.
Well, this is a totally different one.
Okay.
Because it's a different location. So they're not following me around. They actually live in these locations.
Okay.
The really cool thing about fae or fairies is they are tangible and they are third dimensional.
Right.
So they're not coming through this veiled experience. They're actually here among everybody, just like a bear or a raccoon or whatever is living in the woods. They live in the woods. Now, when they hear people come and people hiking and things like that, they hide just like all the other animals. I mean, if you go on a hike, just think how hard it is to find and see wildlife. I mean, unless it's an elk, or a squirrel that is bouncing from tree to tree, but really it's hard to find these. This is an example. The other day I was hiking and I was on the property and I went up and was looking at waterfalls. And so I hiked way in kind of mid property. And I felt like something was watching me. I'm like, what the heck? And I'm looking around. I was like, okay, maybe it's a bear. Maybe, it's a bear with her cubs, or everybody's kind of waking up. The snow is just melting. And So I start looking around, and I look way up in a pine tree, and there is like a 50-pound, it feels like a 50-pound porcupine sitting way up in the. So, I mean, it's just a rarity, but we have these animals that are around us all the time, and we don't see them. So that's what they are. So when I was in Big Sur, it was a certain family of them that live out in that Big Sur area in the Santa Lucia Mountains, and there's not just one sect of it. They're
Right.
in multiple areas, and so I was surprised in Vermont because at one point Vermont was all farming, and they basically stripped it bare. And so the trees now, it's just such a new forest up there over the last 150 years. So we really don't have old growth trees up there. And then we have so many people, but Vermont is this little sanctuary on the East Coast that not much is happening. There's no billboards. Everybody has, space between them, and these animals have, I think, gathered in Vermont. And so that's why I was surprised, because I thought maybe they had been pushed out or killed off, or didn't survive
Right.
when we were building that area up. So I was really surprised. I don't know what kind, I don't have like a type of
Right.
fairy it is. The reason why it shocked me, because this is the second time I've seen one like that size. So literally 2.5 feet tall. It looks like the size of a child. It's perfectly proportioned, but it moves like lightning. And it's not a bear cub. I mean, when I say it moves like lightning, it moves like that fast. So on an instant, so imagine like a UFO in the sky, and people say it went from standing still to lightning speed and then disappeared. That's what it's like. It's just incredible. So maybe I'll post the videos up. You don't really get to see it. I think you do get to see it on one of them, but you can actually hear the rustling movement. I brought Gray out, and then Gray started like pointing at its direction. And there was one point where it was hiding behind a log, and we just stood there and were staring at each other. So I was out there for, like I said, about 15 minutes playing hide and seek. It didn't go further into the woods. It would move. I would say we were playing in a half-acre type area, but it was pretty amazing. I've never actually played hide and seek with a fairy before, and now I can say I have.
I think it's like anything else too. Is once you've seen something like that, you're more open to it, so
Yeah.
you're going to see them again. And I noticed even with me, I've seen the little light flashes in my house.
Yeah.
In a place where there can't be any reflection coming in or anything like that. It's fairies
Yeah.
running around my house. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Just like what a lot of people don't realize is when you're out in the woods, and they expect there to be no noise because there's nothing out there. But I mean, you could hear stuff that's not even within your eyesight.
Yeah.
Whether it's fairies walking around or animals or whatever, but you can definitely hear different things out there. So it's really a cool place to go out and meditate and try and see stuff.
Yeah. You just said something that's really important, and that's, the more you see something, the more you're going to catch it. And that's because you're starting, when you see it and you recognize it, or you give it attention, you start making it relevant to your life now. So the more you see something, even if you don't think it's that, if you say, yeah, I think that could have been that, your brain starts saying, oh, we're giving this attention, we're going to start making this relevant. So it becomes more of an everyday, not every day, but more frequent occurrence for you to see these things.
I was just thinking about wood sprites too, because I know my sister lives up in redwood country, and you talk about the wood sprites all the time. It's fascinating. The whole thing with fairies is fascinating because there's so many of them, so many personalities. Just like the ones that kidnap little kids and take them underground with them. I mean, there's that legend. That's over. Oh, why is it the fairies? Okay, how about this? Why is it the fairies over here are good or are nice fairies essentially, but the ones over in Ireland and all those places are very, very. I'm not saying nasty, but they're very, they're very temperamental.
Yeah. So part of that goes to, it's like Christmas time.
Hmm.
Santa's watching you, and if you're naughty, he's not going to bring you anything. So some of these fairy tales, let's say if we went to Iceland or Ireland or wherever, there's real heavy fairy traffic, we'll
Hmm.
say, and where the majority of the populace says definitely fairy. We can use that to scare kids to doing what is right, to go to bed quickly, or the fairies are going to come get you. Because they are mischievous. Fairies are not, they're just mischievous beings because they can be. I mean,
Okay.
if you could zip around and you could do the things that the fairies do, you would be mischievous too, because it's fun. So they have a sense of humor. Um, I really don't think that they are mean. I know that some people think that they're mean. From what I have seen, and from and traveling to Europe, I haven't really seen any devious behavior, like intent to be mean, but they are different than us. So their sense of humor is different than our sense of
Right.
humor. So if they grabbed a child and took them into their lair, let's say, in their cave or wherever they are, it might be because it's a joke, because they're listening to these stories. Oh, be good or the fairies are going to get you. They're like, okay, we're going to get them.
Mhm.
But they're not hurting them. They're not eating them. They're not doing anything that's mean.
So, have you had the chance to go to Sedona yet?
Yes, I've been to Sedona many times. I'll be going through Sedona after I leave here. So right now I'm exploring the superstitions,
Hmm.
and then I'll head up through Arizona. So I went through Oklahoma, I went through Missouri, New Mexico, and Texas. So now I'm going to circle back around. So now I'll go up through Sedona, through Flagstaff, Colorado, and then hit the northern states. So Nebraska, Ohio, Iowa. I think I'm going up in there. I have to look at what my schedule is, and then back across through Illinois, and oh, I'm going to Michigan also.
Sedona has a certain feeling,
Yes.
and I felt. I mean, the minute my car entered that area, it was like a bubble or something. There's just something about Sedona, and why do you think it's so mystical? So mystical like that.
Yeah. There's several places. Ow, sorry, I got a bit. There's several places in the country and in the world that are like that, and they have vortex energy. So it depends on the venting. So what's happening in Sedona is it's an actual earth vent. So it's a breathing of the earth, and we can feel that
Hmm.
when the earth breathes in these specific areas. We have different kinds of energy that is produced.
Hmm.
So I know that a few months ago I was talking about the Oregon vortex, and I don't know if you've ever been up there to the
Yeah.
Oregon vortex, but it's amazing. And so you have a ball that's rolling uphill when you drop
Yep.
it,
Yep.
instead of rolling downhill. You have brooms that can balance on themselves, and you don't have to do anything to do that. So, and the ground and your perception is completely skewed. And then we have places like Skinwalker Ranch. People talk about Skinwalker Ranch. What's going on with Skinwalker Ranch? Well, that's another venting. That's another heavily vortexed area that has, different energies coming through. And then we have Sedona. So it's a venting, and our bodies, some people can go to Sedona and not have any reaction. And some
Hmm.
people can go to Sedona and be completely enlightened, be completely just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've stepped somewhere I shouldn't be, in a good way. Like I've uncovered a secret and my body is feeling it and reacting to it. And some people will go and be like, I do not like this space. I
Hmm.
don't really like Sedona. It's not for me. And you kind of think it's not that great. So these vents that create these vortex will do different things to our bodies.
Okay. Okay.
It has to
So
do with the electromagnetic, and I don't want to.
right,
Our
right.
bodies are electromagnetic. The Earth is, and so it's just the polarity.
Because I was just thinking when you were talking about that, about vortexes and haunted houses and haunted locations. I mean, one of the things I used to do was I would get into a vortex, stand there, put my arms out, and close my eyes, and then
Hmm.
you could watch my body weave back and forth in the vortex. So when you were saying all that, that's what came to mind for me.
Yeah, that's a great example.
I also had the opportunity, and I don't know if you've been able to get to Tombstone yet.
Yes. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
Yeah, if you haven't been to Tombstone and you're watching this and you're close by, hop in your car. Let's go to Tombstone.
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever been to a place where, I mean, Placerville's up here is pretty haunted.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever been in a location where when you're just walking down the main street, I mean, the ghosts are just coming out to see you.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. There's so much spiritual imprinting there. And there's another town. It's called Garnet, and it's in not Michigan, Montana, Garnet,
Mhm.
Montana. And if you go up there, this ghost town is spectacular. And they look for caretakers every year for the winter time to stay up there. I applied and I didn't, my application, I mean, I bet there's a lot of people applying, but I applied. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go stay in a ghost town by myself in the middle of winter. I don't mind that at all. But you go up there and the spiritual imprinting there is incredible. So they have like this saloon area, and the buildings are surprisingly small. The movies make saloons huge, but when
Mhm.
you go to a real ghost town from the 1800s, they're very small buildings. So they felt cramped and they felt full, like the saloon was hopping. That's because, 20 people were in there. But in the back, they had the housing in the back, and you went to the back of the saloon behind it, and there is this little boy energy, this spiritual imprinting of this little boy that is absolutely incredible. And you just see him running up the stairs, I think probably to go home. So he's leaving the back and he just patterns that, and
Wow.
he'll just run it, and he'll just run it and just run it. And it's all the time. A lot of times spiritual imprinting will happen on certain days or certain times of the year, because
Right.
that's the time frame of when a major event happened in their life. So to
Right.
get spiritual imprinting that is constant every time I go up there, and it's just on repeat,
Mhm.
and it's still going and it's not fading, there this little boy wore out some treads, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Now,
There's
when you go, sorry to interrupt. When you go in a ghost town like that, I mean, like you say, there's a lot of spiritual imprinting. But what about the ones that aren't spiritual imprinting that are kind of stuck there?
Yeah. See, well, I don't believe spirits get stuck.
Okay.
So I when I go there, when I see, and that's just my belief from what I have experienced. But when someone dies, their consciousness and their soul, they're dead, and they disconnect, and they don't
Mhm.
really get stuck. They know that they're dead. So they know that they're dead. Their consciousness continues. Do they want to go back to this space? Do they consciously attempt a communication? So that's what we look at. So if there is a spiritual entity there that is able to communicate with you,
Mhm.
that's a conscious attempt at communication.
Okay.
And it's not that the whole spirit is stuck there, because they're not.
Mhm.
They're peering down, going, oh, I wonder if that spot is still there. And they come down, it's like, looking back on your vacation. You're like, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go there, and there's somebody there that can see me, there's somebody there that can hear something. And
Mhm.
so it's more like sharing a memory, sharing a situation, scary or not scary. And that, so it's a conscious attempt at communication. But most hauntings that people have are these imprints where there's a huge energetic footprint left behind, and then the energetic footprint repeats a pattern
Mhm.
before the death.
And what a lot of people don't realize with these buildings too is that stuff that happens in your house, and there's a lot of like fighting or a lot of emotion,
Hmm.
wood absorbs that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where some of these imprints come from, because because it's just absorbing, and then you come in with the right frame of mind at the right time, and boom, there it is replaying itself.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right, right. And like the little boy, Does anybody know when he passed? I mean, how
No,
long has he been
I
doing this?
mean, this is because when we go to these ghost towns, it's like going to Tombstone. There were so many deaths. It's
Right.
just like Slaughter Town. So we don't really have the exact time frame of when these happen, but
Mhm.
there's so many spiritual. If you go to Garnet, Montana, you will go up there and I will guarantee you feel it. So if you believe in ghosts or you don't believe in ghosts, you're going to feel that energy because there is so much imprinting going on up there that just going up and putting your hand on one of the buildings
Mhm.
or walking up, there's one building towards the caretaker's cottage. Now the caretaker's cottage is way kind of far away. They didn't put it in the town,
Mhm.
but there is a building that's part of the town that's between the town formal and the caretaker's cabin. And when you walk towards that, you get the feeling that you are not supposed to be walking towards that.
Wow.
You get the feeling that I should probably turn around. But of
Mhm.
course, because I am who I am, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'll bring you some chocolate. Come on, I'm nice. Let me in.
Y'all like chocolate? I'm good. Yeah.
Come on, come on. But it is eerie that, and just recounting going towards that house right now,
Right.
I feel eerie. I feel the eeriness of it.
Rule number one as a ghost hunter, kids: don't go without a medium.
Yeah.
Let them encounter it before you do. You have such great stories. Your life is just wonderful. Well, it seems wonderful from the outside looking in. I mean, you do so much. Like you're on this tour, these haunted locations, and and all this. I mean, a lot of people just dream
You
of
and
doing
I need to
something.
go on a tour, or you and I
We
need to go
do.
to one time.
We
There
do.
is, if you ever come, well, we'll figure out where we can go. But if you ever come out, there's a haunted hotel that supposedly has Lyndon Johnson's wife is haunting the hotel, I think. So, and we went up there, and I did film that one. I went with two people because it's the third floor, room 329. So if you go to this hotel, and that's supposedly haunted, and then there's this little boy that's running again, a child. I
Right.
just default that runs in the restaurant. But when we went up and we hit that third floor, you hit that third floor and you think you are, if you get seasick, it's gonna hit you and you're gonna feel totally seasick. I was just like crawling. I was like, seriously. And other people could feel it. The two people that I was with could feel it. But I've never been so seasick because of the energy that's up there.
That happened to our team in Virginia City in the old Washoe Club. They were taking us on a tour, and there were about 20 of us on this little tour. Before it goes dark, right? Because you want to know where the hell you're at.
Yeah.
And we walk into this room, and it was weird because the room was built into a hill. The windows were facing the hill, but I, honest to God, I felt the floor moving.
Yeah.
And I turned around, I looked at the guy behind me, and I said, "Do you feel that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, it's just not me going nuts here." But yeah, I mean, the energy was just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, because it really can move the floor. So you can have a house that is built like Fort Knox. It's just
Hmm.
solid. And you go into one specific room and there's nothing in that room or underneath that room or attached to that room, no heater or whatever it is. It should be moving the room like an ocean. They're just, and so that's an example of the energy that some of these spiritual imprintings can leave behind. And then, to find out what caused that energy release,
Right.
that's usually, interesting. The stories behind that energy release are
Hmm.
interesting. Don't growl. Oh, everybody's gonna start barking now.
It's okay. It's like my house. So, as a medium, and you're in these buildings, how do you sleep at night? And, how do you get through the energy? Because I mean, it's going to come slamming at you because you're like a beacon. You're like Carol Ann and Poltergeist. They're coming at you.
It never really attaches, or I don't let it attach to me. I
Right.
just kind of flows through me, and I think that's just something that I had, throughout my life, where I've never seen myself as solid, so I've never seen anything be able to just stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the ways that we can have energy stick to us or stay with us is when our brain begins ruminating on what our experience was. When we have that, it jumps onto the Ferris wheel and then it goes, oh yeah, and then we have could have had. We start filling in these stories, and that's going to change our own energy to feel like we've had all of this excess energy put onto us. But our body can't hold on to excess energy. It will always flush the energy, but our brain can ruminate and create this darkness, this heaviness, because it thinks that's what we want.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like after an investigation when we cleanse a house.
Mm-hmm.
The parting words are try not to think about what happened.
Yeah.
Because you'll draw it in. So, but I know it's hard for people not to do that because they're sitting there day in and day out looking at the same stuff where stuff happened, but that's part of it. Because like my dad's just saying, if you wish hard enough and you want it bad enough, your dreams will come true, whether they're good or bad. That was my dad's saying. And,
yeah.
that's what that sounds like.
Yeah. And that's really a true statement, what your dad said. And it's not manifesting. You're not manifesting these things. It's not, manifestation of destiny, because believe me, there's so much out there that we all think about all the time and we all want, and we haven't manifested it, so we're not creating manifestation of this. But if we want something bad to happen, we can create it to happen. We can force negative interaction. We can force these negative things because we're changing our own energy. We're changing our own perception of the world. And when we change our own perception, we see things, we experience things in a completely different fashion.
What is it like for you to walk into a haunted building like that? Because obviously you're the one that they're going to start coming towards, because like I said, you're the bright light. So do you pick and choose which ones you communicate with, or how do you do that?
No. I pretty well, just like with you, or just like with anybody that I see, I see your energy first. So I actually don't even see a human form. And I know that sounds silly, but I live in this space where everything is a specific energetic code. And those codes mean certain things. So if I go into a place that is completely haunted, there is no difference between these things because they're energetic codes. And then I have trained my brain to go, okay, I'm going earthbound, basically. I mean, this is such a simplistic version of what I do, but I just say I want to see earthbound, or I want to see, three-dimensional. I don't actually say that, but my brain adjusts. And then I see the formation of you, and I see the formation of other people. But the entities around are still there. My brain still processes those things. It's like when people see numbers or something like that. Part of that comes from being a synesthete. So I have synesthesia and a specific forms of synesthesia where my senses have crossed and gotten mixed up. And so it's like the ultimate dyslexia of senses. And so you're just like, oh, there it is. I don't necessarily pick one to talk to, but there's usually one that wants to communicate more than others, because they're just like, oh, it's another person. Oh, and most of them are minding their own business. But one or two that are usually wreaking havoc, and usually why you would go there, they had that personality. If it's an imprint, that personality continued. And so it's annoying, and that's why you would probably talk to them. If it's a conscious attempt at communication, they're going to basically just blurt it out. You don't have to, I mean, they're big mouths. They just are going to tell you, and you're going to be like, okay, well, that was nice. Thank you.
How do they see us? Do they see us as solid or no?
No, they see us as spiritual or energetic footprints. So they don't see us as solid either, because they're not living third dimensional. This whole entire third dimensional plane that we're on, our brain is translating energetic code to create it. So here's this thing here. So it's brown and it has a white outline to it. what you're seeing, this brown with a white outline, is probably totally different than what I am seeing. But we have come to a common idea of this is an energetic code for brown, and this is an energetic code for white, and this is an energetic code for square. But it might look different in our brain. The shades of brown might look different. The size of the square might look a little bit different, if there's chips in it or whatever. So they see us as energetic code.
That's cool. That's really, I never thought about that.
Yeah. That's why you don't worry if you're in the shower, you're just an energetic code, and then there's a code for water. So they're not spying on you in the shower. There you go.
That's cool. Now, see, I'm going to look at all this differently now when I go out, because it never struck me like that all these years. Yeah, I learned something new tonight. It's always good.
Wow.
Always good to learn something new.
Yeah.
So what's been your most, so far on this tour that you're on, what's been the most famous location, or not famous, but your most favorite location?
Okay, let me think here quickly. Okay. So it's not a haunting, but I had an incident happen that brings humility smack in your face. Mm-hmm. So I was in Oklahoma 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago now, 2 nights or 3 nights ago. Oh, I guess it's more than that, like 5 nights, whatever. And I got Gray out and I unhooked my bike, and we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I take her on a bike ride because she's in the car for more than 2.5 hours. And all of a sudden the energy changes, the weather changes, and you're just like, oh, there's something impending. And the sky changes and it kind of turns green. I was like, okay, let's go back to the car. And I hooked the bike back up onto the car. And within 15 minutes, there's winds that are literally blowing my car like a kite on the highway. And then like dime-sized hail starts battering the car, and you can't see. So I slow way down, and I'm going about 35 miles an hour on the highway and thinking, okay, I'm going to get off. Well, this van comes up from behind me and doesn't want to go 35 miles an hour and passes me and is going to then scoot in front of me. And the second she scooted in front of me, the van flipped into the air and rolled and rolled and rolled. And had I been going literally 5 miles an hour faster, I would have hit her and probably killed her. And I would have been then also in a car accident in this horrible storm. So I pull over, and her van is upside down. And it's just one of those moments to show how fleeting life is. We go through every day, we go through our everyday patterns and not really think about anything else, which, we don't need to. But it's events like this that remind me how quickly it just all goes away.
Yep.
So I gave her a blanket and waited for the ambulance and everything to come. But I think that was the most impactful thing that's happened on this trip so far. Spiritually, I think it's really cool. So I do talk about my son a lot, but I believe that as I'm going through this and as I'm getting ready to hit a certain area, like if it's going to be a really haunted space where you go in there and it is just palpating with this thick energy, before I go there, he flashes me a signal. He's like, hey, go this way. And so I'll do that. So whether it's 333 or he'll change the radio and turn on a different song, saying, a song that is appropriate to where I'm going and heading. So I think that spiritually, I like that part of the trip, because it's like he's doing it with me. He's like, hey, go over here. This is going to be a good spot.
That's really cool. Question in the chat room is, where is the Oregon Vortex?
The Oregon Vortex is near the Oregon Caves. So if you were to go into Medford, Oregon, so Southern Oregon, it's about an hour and a half east of Medford, near the Oregon Caves. And it's called the Oregon, what is it called? The House of, hold on, Oregon Vortex. The House of Mystery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where it is, and it's spectacular. I'm trying to get a trip up there this summer. I have a couple events that I'm speaking at in August, so I'm trying to get up there around the first part of August, maybe the 8th of August, to go to the Vortex. So if you guys want to join in, definitely. I will post on my website the actual date that I'll be there, but it's only going to be, for me, it's only going to be a day trip. I'm going to fly into Medford, go out to the Vortex with a couple people, and then I have to get back because I have more things to do.
That's awesome. This trip you're on sounds really cool. I would love to do a thing like is it, different
Oh my
places
gosh.
like that.
One of these days, I think you and I would have so much fun going, just even a 2 or 3 day road trip and go into some places in Nevada and, some of these hotels and like Virginia City. I mean, it's just fantastic.
There are some places out there, boy. Yeah, Virginia City's happening. I'll tell you, the Wassail Club.
Yep.
And then they've got the Museum of Ill Repute, where there's a couple. There's one dark thing in the corner. You always run into like one baddie somewhere. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out of Virginia City. But to hear the places you've been, like the place in Montana, that you would want to stay alone, that's brave.
Yeah. I love to be alone anyway, but I would love it. I would relish that opportunity.
You got a lot of, yeah. You got it going on to do that. I don't know if I'd go out there alone. I'd probably have somebody with me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd stay out there alone like that in the winter. And then right away when you said it, I thought, oh my God, it's like The Shining.
Yep.
Well, you see that TV, the show where the woman bought the town.
No.
There was a town out in Montana. I think it was Colorado that she bought.
Wow.
And all the buildings in the town weren't original. They were brought in from other auctions. But the place was haunted as heck.
Yeah. I mean, it does.
Bring her family out there and retire.
That's cool. Yeah, you don't have, your house doesn't have to be ancient to be haunted.
No.
It just doesn't. Spiritual imprinting can tag along on the wood from the forest.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you've got like strange haunting in your house and you're like, why is this in my house? And I have a brand new house. It shouldn't be there.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be old in order to be haunted.
I have a 70-something-year-old house and we're active all the time. So
I know, you tell me that.
I know. It's just like your place. It's just depends on what's going on with the land and what the history is out there and all that. It all combines in. So, where are you headed next on this tour?
From here, I'm heading up into Sedona just for a day or two, and then Flagstaff, and then there's a couple towns in Colorado that I'm going to go to, and then I have a talk that I'm giving in the Midwest, and then I'm heading home. So almost done. I have about 3 more weeks on the road.
Wow. That's a long time on the road, though.
It's a long time on the road.
Someone babysitting the castle, or?
Yep. Up there babysitting. So the story of the castle from last night, of course, I wasn't there. He said it was probably 3:30 in the morning. He woke up. He was like, "Oh my God, there's somebody in the house." And if you've never stayed in a haunted place, it can be quite shocking. But he has a very active imagination, so I'm not surprised that he is being haunted. Anyway, he ends up, and the lights are flashing on and off outside because I have security lights outside, out towards the woods. Not motion detectors, but like if you are heavy enough, like if you have a car, it will set them off. So he's like, there's a car driving around the loop, because there's this loop that goes around the castle, and the lights keep shining off. He says, so I got a shotgun.
Wow.
And he went out to the very top of the castle, like where the turrets are. And he was like, I felt like I went back to medieval times. I mean, he didn't shoot the gun or anything. and it's his shotgun, not mine. And, but anyway, he was like, and it just kept, every time it would stop, I would go out there and I would stand, and then I would go back to bed and I'd go lay down, and all of a sudden it started again. And there's this, it sounds like a car driving around the driveway. So I was kind of laughing, and he found it comical now, but he was like, last night it wasn't so comical. Ooh, speak of that, let's see. Okay, so
let's see.
He said I locked the doors and I'm going to bed. So
we'll see how long that lasts. No, I'm kidding.
That's right.
Why do you think that you had these gifts? That you were given these gifts?
For me, what I see is it's kind of like a form of savantism. So if you see children that are born, some of them have musical talents and mathematical talents and artistic talents, and it's just the formation of our brain. And when we're all born, our brain creates the veil. So our brain is the veil. Your brain is the veil. There's nothing out here that is the veil. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when children are born with forms of savantism, is what happens is some of these pathways don't get veiled off. So now all of a sudden we have like a 3-year-old that can do insane mathematics. And we have people that can paint, and they're like, I feel like it was from on high that I know how to paint. And for me, I was caught in the veil, inside the veil. So that's kind of it's kind of a form of savantism. Like I said, I have synesthesia. I'm highly dyslexic, and I do have some autistic tendencies. So,
was it hard for your parents? I mean, to understand what was going on with you?
Very, very hard. My family doesn't talk to me anymore, so.
Because you're really gifted. I mean, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I think that as a child, when you see things, you just think it's matter of fact. And so you say things as it comes. You say things as they happen or as they're going to happen, because you see a lot more. Because like I said, it's an energetic code. And inside that code is every life event, every illness, everything that's going to happen is in that code. And so you just matter of fact see it as it's already happened. Like it's, oh, well, that's no big deal. So as I would say things, and then they would happen. And sometimes they wouldn't happen immediately. Sometimes it would take years for that event that I said was going to happen, for it to happen. I think they just got tired of that. And I learned to have a little bit more formality and decorum on how I can present these things.
Maren, it's always fun to have you on.
Well, thank you for talking to you.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip, your travels.
Thank you very much. I will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll talk to you later.
You have a website, right?
Oh, yes, MarenMuter.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maren.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye. I really appreciate it. Have a good one. All right. It's always fun to talk with Maren. She's a good friend. You never know what you're going to find when you're doing shows like this, because you will run into people that you just click with, and Maren and I clicked. Anyway, tomorrow, Vance Nance is going to be with us. We're going to be talking about exactly what Maren was talking about today. Do you really want to see the people that the folks that are haunting your house, and see what they really look like? That's Nancy has information for me, so we'll have to see what that is. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hear the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio, and we just want to get the word out on the show. And again, if you like what you saw and you're over on Facebook, please hit those like buttons, and please follow if you haven't done so already. And same thing with YouTube. All right. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. I will see you tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Have a great one.